It's 8:43 at iFiber One News Radio, and I'm happy to dive on into a great conversation about the Port of Shelton. And today on the air, I've got Dick Taylor and Brandon Palmer. Good morning, guys.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. It looks like we've fallen into fall, doesn't it?
I tell you what, the
It feels
football's
like
going,
it.
and the clouds are out there. It's definitely fall.
Trees are starting to turn in my yard. The maples are starting to go.
The fruit is ripe as well. I've got tons of plums and apples.
Do you?
Oh, yeah.
Tomatoes are a little behind right now.
Yeah, tomatoes are way behind.
Hundreds of pounds of
Oh, man, my tomatoes are about done. We were having
Really?
a last little bit last night. They were starting to get pretty juicy.
We
but
haven't
the
even
plums
gotten
and
ours ripe
Really?
yet, really.
Oh, my
Some of ours are
Phew.
splitting from all the rain we're getting now.
Yeah.
Hoping this warm weather ahead is going to help.
Yeah, I hope so.
Next week. So, Dick, you brought Brandon Palmer, engineering manager, on the air today. What are we talking about?
We're going to talk about some projects going
Great.
on out at Sanderson
I like it.
Field.
I like it. Brandon, start us off.
Sure. So, the big project we have going on is the Sanderson Field aircraft holding run-up area, which is north of the 2-3 end of the runway. That's the east end, near US 101 there. And that project actually starts construction on September 19th. Roglins is the contractor. They're from Aberdeen, Washington. The total project cost, including all the engineering and port staff time and everything, is about $490,000. 90% of that is funded through FAA, and then 5% is covered by Washington State Department of Transportation Aviation Division, with the remaining 5% being funded by the port.
Oh, wow. So a pretty good deal for the port
It's a
there.
heck of a deal.
Very good deal, yes.
And this is to allow the planes to warm up, not on the runway.
Right, before they take off. Get their engines run up. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, typically what they do now is they'll run up either on taxiway A1, which is the one that kind of runs along the hangars there. Generally, our wind is out of the southwest, so you would use the 2-3 end of the runway because you want to take off and land into the wind. If the wind is out of the northeast, which happens fairly commonly also, you would use the other end, the 5 end of the runway. So the other place that people do engine run-ups is on an old hard standing that's original pavement from World War II. And so it's kind of awkward because you have to turn the plane really sharply and kind of spin it around into the wind, and then you do your engine tests and make sure your magnetos are working and everything.
So is this to kind of alleviate any congestion on the runway, or is there an additional benefit for the pilots to be warmed up and ready to go?
Yeah,
All the above.
It makes it so you don't have to wait for someone else.
Yeah.
I mean, it basically provides a nice, convenient spot off to the side so that other planes can taxi by you and you're not blocking traffic.
Sure. Okay. Wow, that does sound like a good project then.
Yeah, and it'll definitely help Skydive Kapowsin quite a bit because they have 2 turboprop planes and they burn a lot of fuel. So it's very expensive for them to be sitting and waiting for a small GA pilot who's doing engine run-ups,
Okay.
that sort of thing. But it's definitely been something we've needed for a long time. So I think it's going to be a nice benefit to the airport.
Very nice. That is good.
Yeah.
What else is the projects you're working on?
One other thing I should mention on that project is there will be a 2-day taxiway closure on taxiway A1, the one near the hangars. And currently that is scheduled for October 12th and 13th. And the reason for that is we're doing some trenching and some storm pipe installation and then paving on that. If that schedule changes, we'll make sure we get the word out.
Okay. How long of a project is this going to take?
45 calendar days.
Weather depending, I'm sure. What else are we
We're hoping for good weather.
Yeah,
this has been an interesting summer, so we definitely have our fingers crossed on that. So.
All right.
So other projects we have at the Oakland Bay Marina, we have boathouse upgrades going on to our boathouse, which is in slip number 80 on the north dock. GK Construction is doing that work for us. They're getting pretty close to being done, actually, and that includes replacing exposed styrofoam with not polycarbonate. It's tubs. They're food grade polystyrene filled tubs. And so replacing siding and roofing, adding polycarbonate roofing panels, which are to allow fire to burn through if they're in the unfortunate event of a fire. And also to let light into the boathouse, replacing the step and putting a garage door on, and a few other improvements. I'm kind of jumping around here, but now we're out at Johns Prairie. We've got a fencing project that's about a $41,000 project, and it's the former mill site, and we've divided it into 2 different lease premises. So this is going to provide security, fencing, and gates for that.
Now, it was a year ago, or maybe 2 or 3 now, you've installed that top-of-the-line security system where you can access it from anywhere, the internet, and you can
That's down at the
get
marina.
the marina as well.
Yeah.
Has that been a benefit? Have you noticed that this has been a helpful addition to have that
I think it's
enhanced
been a helpful
security?
addition, yeah.
People are aware that,
People
watch
know
out, there's
that,
cameras.
Yeah, Big Brother's watching you when you're down there. But we don't have that at Johns Prairie. Johns Prairie, the security systems up, the video security systems up there are the belong to the people, the
different tenants.
Tenants have
tenants
their
up
own.
there.
Oh,
Have
okay.
their own up there.
Okay.
Especially the I-502 guys, they have cameras all the way around.
Oh,
Yeah, they have to do that by law, so that's all theirs. And it's pretty sophisticated.
I bet.
The tenants out there also are paying a security company to come and drive through the site regularly, especially at nighttime.
I can imagine, when people find out what's up there, the looky-loos come out.
Oh, yeah.
Get them
Among
out.
other things.
Among other, yeah. What else, Brandon?
Well, we've got some roof repairs that are happening at, we're calling it building number 1 at 130 East Export Road. That's a new address. It used to all be called 30 East Export, and that's the former mill site. That's the first building along Export there that Lynch Creek Farms is leasing.
Yeah, Eddie Hunter's building.
Okay, yeah.
So those are large sawmill buildings that the port kind of inherited. And so there's a lot of repairs that need to be done to the roofs to make sure that they don't leak now for the tenants. So actually today at 11 o'clock we have a pre-bid meeting where the contractors will come out and they'll get up on the roof and take a look at it. And then about a week from now, bids will be due on that project.
How are the bids in the economy looking for these types of projects? You getting a fair amount of people bidding?
Well, contractors tend to be really busy right now. There's a lot of work out there, actually,
Okay.
in our experience. So we're, bids tend to be a little higher than we would, in terms of costs than we would normally expect, just because they're so tied up. And that's a good thing. That means, a lot of people are working.
Yeah.
It's a positive sign as well.
Okay.
Does make things cost a little bit more, and it can be harder to get enough interest in projects, especially smaller ones. Another project we have coming up, we need to decommission the north well at Johns Prairie. We connected to the City of Shelton water system several years back and haven't used that well ever since, and it's no longer needed.
It was also ordered as part of the agreement that we had to shut the well down and decommission it.
Yeah, with Department of Ecology. The issue there is that we don't have perfected water rights for Johns Prairie because we weren't able to document use prior to the 1945 date that enables you to have perfected water rights. And so we were only allowed to use 1.25 acre feet a year as part of this final agreement. So that's actually 10 acre feet for emergency purposes, but the perfected water rights they figured would be only 1.25 acre feet, which is not enough at all for an industrial park. So
what do you do there to decommission? Do you just cap it, or?
No, you actually, it has to be done by a licensed well driller, and they take a large drilling rig and they'll send it down the well and they perforate it so it cuts little holes all the way around the well, full depth, and then they would fill it in, and then the top, depending on the design, it could be maybe the top 40 feet would have to be totally sealed. So they'd use like bentonite or something like that absorbs water and then expands a lot, and it makes a permanent cap. So that because if you think about it, an abandoned well is basically an exposure pathway for contaminants directly to an aquifer.
Sure.
So it's really important that they be properly decommissioned.
Okay.
It's not as simple as just capping it because it exposes the populace to risk.
Isn't that something?
Yeah. So
we've all, years ago we remember little kids falling into wells.
Sure.
And the big rescue operations that had to take place to get them out.
I do remember those.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah. Wow.
So there's actually one other surprise well that we came across at Johns Prairie recently.
Yeah.
We are quite certain it's the original hand-dug well from 1946 that was built by the military. It's 3 foot inside diameter, 4 foot outside, and it's made of, I believe it's concrete tile. and it's 60 foot deep. So that's something you could easily fall into.
Yeah.
So we need to get bids on having that decommissioned. Right now we have large wooden beams covering it so that no one can fall in it, and we've got it well marked and to make it safe and everything, but that needs to be sealed up.
How was it a surprise?
Well, we had seen, the approximate location on the original drawings that, were declassified after the war. And so we had an idea roughly where it was at, but no one had ever encountered it before.
Wow.
Apparently it was filled in with gravel to some degree, and then I think they had put, beams over it, and then just someone had backfilled over the top. Well, that finally got exposed by one of our maintenance guys who was out mowing one day.
Oh, my gosh.
So it's a pretty, it's a major problem that has to be fixed right away.
Oh, wow. Very interesting. Very interesting. Commissioner Taylor, anything going on with the meetings your weekly port meetings?
No, we had our meeting yesterday. And before the meeting, we had a little workshop to look at the budget and the 2016 budget, and we decided we had to make a couple amendments to that to make the budget reflect what actually was happening. There were some revenue streams that didn't come in, and some expenses that we didn't have to spend, so we corrected and realigned the budget, or discussed it at that workshop, and then at the regular meeting at 2 o'clock we voted on it and implemented those changes to our 2016 budget.
Okay.
And we're starting our 2017 budget process. The commissioners will get the first look at the 2017 budget this Friday, the preliminary budget. The staff will be providing that to us, and so then we'll start the public process, which will be announced, and I can't remember the dates, but it has to have two public hearings before we adopt it and what have you, and then it has to be in effect by the 15th of October, as I recall.
Okay.
Something like that.
Okay.
So we're working on that, and that's that's kind of mundane stuff, but that's what you have to do to stay afloat and keep going in the business. So.
Well, very good information from both Brandon Palmer and Dick Taylor. Brandon, anything else before we let you go?
No, I think we pretty much covered it.
Very nice. Some pretty interesting information this morning during Port of Call here, weekly on iFiber One News Radio. Dick Taylor, Brandon Palmer, thanks for coming in.